Regular meeting of the Wappinger Town Board to order. May the town clerk please call the roll.
Councilman Beal.
Here.
Councilwoman Bettina. Councilman Phillips.
Here.
Councilman Casella.
Here.
Supervisor Cavazzini.
Here. In just a moment, I will ask everyone to join us in rising for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. It will be followed by an invocation provided by Pastor Doug Leonard from Hopewell Reformed Church, and that will be followed by a brief moment of silent meditation. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. My name is Reverend Doug Leonard. I'm the pastor at the Hopewell Reformed Church, which is on Beekman Road in Hopewell Junction. And I'm grateful to be invited to lead you in prayer tonight. So let's pray. Heavenly Father, as we begin this meeting tonight, and as we start this prayer, I want to admit that we do tend to think in categories. We tend to think about secular space and sacred space. We expect God to find you in the sacred spaces of churches, or synagogues, or our houses of worship. But often we're not really thinking about your presence in a public meeting like this. So I'm grateful tonight for Supervisor Cavazzini and for the town board being willing to open this meeting to your presence as we begin. And of course, as we stop to think about it, we know that, of course, we can't flee from your presence. Of course, every sphere belongs to you. As you say in the book of Psalms, Psalm 139, verse 7, the psalmist says, "Where can we go from your spirit? Where can we flee from your presence? If we go up to heaven, you are there. If we make our bed in the depths of the earth, you are there. If I rise on the wings of the dawn, if I settle on the far side of the sea, even there your hand will guide me." And so, God, we know that whether or not we invoke your name, you're here tonight. And we give thanks, God, for calling every person in this room to be your stewards of the town of Wappingers, of this public, important work. And we pray for your presence and your spirit to guide the meeting tonight. I think the best we can do, God, is 4 things. Help us to do these 4 things: to show up, to pay attention, to tell the truth, and not to get attached to the results. To show up, to pay attention, to tell the truth, and not to get attached to the results. So, Lord, we pray for your servants here tonight and for your spirit to be with everyone in this room. And it's in your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you, Pastor. We greatly appreciate the words. Thank you. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll move it.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Casella, second by Councilman Beal. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do I have a motion to acknowledge the minutes of March 10th, 2025?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Councilman Phillips, second by Councilman Casella. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We do have one public hearing tonight, and that is in regards to a local law that was introduced a month ago in regards to updating our town code when it comes to our records management policy. The town, we are in the process of applying for a grant for records retention, especially when it comes to scanning in the building department, and updating this town code will place us in a better advantage, hopefully, when it comes to applying for those state grants. With that, do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll move it. Second.
Moved by Councilman Casella, second by Councilman Phillips. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The public hearing is now open. You have 3 minutes if you'd like to speak on the local law. Seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Move. I'll second it.
Moved by Councilman Phillips, second by Councilman Casella. All in favor?
Aye.
The public hearing is now closed. Do I have a motion to open the public portion of our agenda?
Move. Second.
Moved by Councilman Phillips, second by Councilman Casella. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Anyone wishing to speak on agenda items? We ask that you come and state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, I'm Marcy Wagman on Old Troy Road. I just would like, I hope we have a robust discussion tonight on Resolution 2025-85, 84. The purpose of amending Chapter 240 zoning to include short-term rentals. We've talked about affordability a lot, and affordability of home ownership in the town of Wappinger, and also wanting to strengthen the community and keeping people in the community. I think this is an important way, especially if we don't allow LLCs and venture capital buzzards coming in to scoop up our properties, but rather that homeowners are able to use their property with the proper constraints, safety considerations, neighbor considerations, et cetera. And quite frankly, I hope this is the beginning of other opportunities for longer-term rentals or adaptive use of homes to allow for longer-term renting, allowing for home health aides or family members, and people. Quite frankly, we have a lot of housing stock that was built in the 1970s, with lots of bedrooms and lots of space and rec rooms and all kinds of good things that just don't fit today's family or other needs. With people have blended families, people are older. Allow people to adapt those homes to fit their needs, and perhaps also give them an opportunity to gain additional income from their property and their investments. So I know that's not on the agenda tonight, but I just hope that this is a first step in looking to those kind of opportunities. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wagman. And I concur with your sentiments. With that, do I have a motion? Seeing none. Do I have a motion to close the public portion?
I'll move it. Second.
Moved by Councilman Casella, second by Councilman Phillips. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Tonight we have one discussion item in front of us, and this is in response to a letter that I received from Scouting America, formerly the Boy Scouts of America, looking to camp at our Reese Park Town Nature Preserve. I know that this title might be a little misleading on the actual agenda, but this is to engage with our local scouting troops to perform some form of camping in our town park there. And what better place to do it than in Reese Park Nature Preserve, surrounded by so many different natural features. That is what we are discussing here tonight. So we've invited our town's trail warden, John Weber, to come up, but as well as representatives from Scouting America to give a presentation as to what they were looking to do.
Hi, I'm John Weber, the Greenway Trail Warden for Wappingers. And before we start, I would like to say that the proposal is for camping at Carnmoth, not Reese Park.
No, we spoke about Reese Park, John.
Yeah, well, yes, we did.
Yes.
We did. We discussed both, and the best alternative for the Boy Scouts at this point would be if we could do it at Carnmoth. And I'll let my associate here explain the reasons why, then I'll come back and follow up.
Okay. We did speak about Reese Park, though. That
We did, yes,
okay.
we did.
So, all right, let's hear it.
Hi, I'm Stan Silverman, Troop 40 in Hopewell Junction. I know you can never get rid of
Stan the man.
How are you, Bill?
He's my retired
Gentleman.
jeweler,
Oh,
who's
wow.
partly responsible for my current marriage. So thank you, Stan.
Oh,
You're welcome. Okay.
He
well,
did a good job.
Thank you.
The rock was big enough. Okay.
there we go.
Well, if we could camp at Conworth Park, we would camp there 2 or 3 times a year. We could do scouting projects, trail cleaning. I noticed that the troop that was doing Clean the Park is now defunct. We could take over those duties. We could the boys could do skills there. They could learn disc golf, maybe a very elementary part of real golf. We could do hikes there. We could, once the scouts get acclimated to the park and they feel a closeness to it, they could do Eagle projects, which would very majorly improve the appearance and the workings of the park. But they have to experience the park in order to feel an affinity for it, so you need to open it for us to go there. And then we're there, we have to eat. So we have to be able to cook. So I know that apparently you people are afraid of fires, so we could either cook with charcoal and Dutch oven cooking, or we could do propane cooking, and we have tables so that we wouldn't be burning the grass. We would, of course, have fire buckets because Boy Scouts are prepared, and we need to make sure that nothing happens. Or if you wanted to, you could put down a cement slab and have us cook there if you wanted to. It's a great place that has that wide open, flat expanse of grass. You could do camporees there, but the Boy Scouts have to know the place in order to want to use it. And by opening it up for camping, it would bring in that friendliness to the place. We could remark trails if you have trails. I think there are trails there, and they need to be remarked every once in a while because you get brush and you get trees that fall down, so you have to remark them. I worked on a project at Sharp where we remarked a very long trail and did a great job of it. You could speak to Mr. Stanley about that. You could also do sledding there. What a great hill there is for sledding there. So, but again, you need to invite people in to see the park, and the Boy Scouts is one of those ways to do that, so that you would get real use out of your inventory, your wonderful inventory that you have there. Okay.
So what
You all right?
As a Greenway Trail Warden, I would be willing to stay on the premises while the Boy Scouts were there, so that I would be like the liaison between the two. So if they were to camp overnight, I would stay there as well, because I have the necessary keys for the gates if need be. God forbid there was an emergency. So there would always be a continuation of somebody there that could be the responsible person. So the difference between the Reese Park and the Carnwath Park is the Boy Scouts felt that the limited use that would be at Reese would not be as congenial for them than if they used Carnwath. And the camping area on that big open field is really probably the safest place of all to do that. So that's what we were hoping to do, and it's up to you.
Again, you know, I was just taken back, and I'm going to make that public because we initially talked about Reese Park and Carnwath. You know, we've been talking about for a number of different uses there. Camping was not one of them. So we had always talked about Reese Park in that regard for a camping site. It's a nature preserve. You know, there's natural features there. Again, I will yield to my colleagues on the town board for how they think about that.
I have no objection to either location. I mean, so, Stan, how often would you want to camp there?
2 or 3 times a year?
Yeah. So, you know, it's basically similar to when we had the Adirondack Mountain Club events there, right? Previously, I don't know how many years ago that was, but we had events there where I think there was some overnight camping involved with that. Anything that we can do to facilitate scouting within our properties that we can meet the standards, I would certainly support. We've talked about this over the years. My question would be, are there any requirements on a given property within the scouting rules and regulations, do we need to have running water on the property? Do we need to have bathroom facilities on the property? Do you know, Stan, or?
You would need to have bathroom facilities, yes, but as far as running water, it would be nice, but if you don't have it, we can bring in water from home.
Okay. Yeah, I think the supervisor alludes to the grand scheme of things with Carnwath. There's a lot of moving parts there, right?
Yes.
Whereas Reese Park, there's less moving parts because it's basically a passive space. But honestly, Supervisor, I think getting scout troops, getting their foot in the door at Carnwath, I think is going to also open up opportunities at other spaces in the town as well. We're very lucky here in this town and in this area. Where are you guys at now? Hopewell? 40?
Yes.
Yeah. So this southern Dutchess County area is pretty lucky for these active troops with, how many active members do you have now in 40?
25.
Yeah. So between Troop 40, Troop 145 is here, PAC 54, we have quite a diverse group of scouts that I think there could be opportunity, Stan, for there even to be multiple units, like you mentioned, Camporee or something like that. So this could, honestly, this could really be an opportunity for us to not only utilize some of our spaces in a different way, but also get reciprocal support from these groups for service projects, right?
Yes.
And we've had a great relationship with all of our different scouting troops and especially prospective Eagle Scouts. Just under this administration, I've met with dozens of them and executed many projects throughout the town, and we love our relationship with them. It's just, again, trying to figure out that location that works the best, I think, and trying to make sure that we collaborate moving forward on different site projects and things like that. As our trail wardens know, we have done a significant overhaul of our greenway trails, especially in the past year.
That's another point I'd like to make
Yes.
also, is that the Boy Scouts would be also in collaboration with the Greenway Trails and the Friends of Carnwath organization. So, and even the Sports Museum as well. So all in all, it's like to me, I feel it's like a tie-in that would just be a good addition to the community.
Unfortunately, Reese Park is really too small. The trails there aren't more than maybe a third of a mile. So, and there's not a lot of flat area to do things. So I'm just concerned that Reese Park doesn't offer enough to keep the scouts busy for a weekend.
Yeah, right now, as it appears today, I would agree with you. However, there are two parts to Reese Park that we can't really get to right now because the bridge is down. So I think, I agree with the Carnwath approach to start things off, but I do think there are opportunities on that 50 or 60 acres for different types of adventures, right? But I think ultimately now, having this conversation is good because, you reminded me, there is a sign down there. I think it was Troop 12 at one point, right?
It was based out of the Mount Hope Grange.
Yeah, so there was a troop that was, they kind of adopted the park and were doing some work down there, and we talked about this a few years back, and I think, you know what happens, as these troops sometimes recycle, or cycle, I should say, they become less active. I'm not sure if that troop is even still in existence.
It's not,
Well, it's not, but you know what? I think it's time to have this conversation further.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to be able to nail it down right here, but I think we should get together offline, and I think we should talk to the council office also. Christine Maurer works at the council office. Let's find out the regulations on, I happen to deal with Camp New Teaming now. The county owns Camp New Teaming, right, which previously was a Boy Scout legacy property, but now is a county property, but the Boy Scouts still have a mechanism to use it. So perhaps we can create a mechanism like that so that as a municipal park, it's standardized how the application process works, how the insurance works, and how the troop and the town can partner.
Yeah.
Right?
And that was part of this conversation that we wanted to have here tonight, was in an open forum, bring it up to the board. I was in receipt of this correspondence and dialogues with John, and just seeing, obviously, taking the temperature of the board, seeing what everyone thought and going.
Go ahead. I mean, I'll yield to my colleagues.
No, it's, It's a great idea. It is. Then you mentioned a camporee, which is a big deal. The last one that I attended with my oldest son, who's 43 now, so it's a couple of years ago, was over on the other side of West Point. It was a huge field like we have. So, I mean, if that came to be, we have the facilities for one. So, but you first have to get accustomed and know the area. So I'm all for whatever you work out.
So I'm all for it, too. I think Carnworth is the better solution right now. It has more opportunity there. There's more acreage, et cetera. And it sounds like you're only going to be there a couple times a year. I think it'd be a great pilot program. I think also that, with all the things you're looking to do to help out as far as cleaning trails, things like that, that's a tremendous help to us. Certainly, once we get the bridge in over at Reese Park, we can certainly use that one as well. But as Councilman Beal said, it's not active right now. But again, I think it's a tremendous idea of being able to get out there and have our young men and women go out there and be able to, enjoy the facilities. Again, it's 99 acres there, and I think it would be, again, a couple times a year. I think, I fully support that. So if we can make it happen. Now, the only thing is, I guess we need to have our attorney potentially take a look at it, maybe do some kind of agreement with the Boy Scouts.
I think there's really two aspects that we have to look at. If there's any sanitary code requirements from the county, that's number one, and then an appropriate agreement. And look, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. If the county has already made an agreement with the Boy Scouts, then I'm sure we could probably just piggyback onto the work that's already been done there.
Sure, and as an Eagle Scout, you would agree with this approach?
Do you concur, Council?
I bought 2 summer camp.
Yeah. We're both Eagle Scout, Stan, so that's 3. So now certainly it's a great opportunity in scouting at this particular juncture. I've often said it's ever so more important to bring our youth together and understand how important the values are in scouting. And if we can support that, certainly we will. I don't think it's going to be a heavy lift, honestly. I think there's already a template in place. The county spent time creating that mechanism to use new teaming. I don't think we're looking at this to make money, so I don't think there's going to be an issue there.
Absolutely not.
Right, it's not one of those deals. But, allowing for the use, I certainly have no objection for, and I think, the more activity we have, the more positive, proactive activity we have going on in these parks, the more buy-in we get from the community, right? We've talked about this.
Well, that's been the mantra this,
And that's how we
whole year.
And we have a lot of project potential on that property that we need buy-in from the public on, and we've talked about how do we gain buy-in here and how do we gain buy-in there, and I think this is another way. This is another avenue to gain buy-in and also to support scouting. So the last time I texted you, Stan, it was Valentine's Day 2018. I just looked. So clearly we were, I was buying something from you, but you have this. I don't know about that. I don't know if it was Tanzanite, Stan, but you have the same number, right?
Yes.
Okay, so, all right, good.
Very
I
good.
believe that the monument in front of the mansion was an Eagle project.
Yeah, it might have been, right.
Yes, the garden around there, I worked with Liam Byrne to dig up that whole garden there. And from your capacity on the Friends of Carnwath, we have a meeting this Wednesday to discuss the landscape plan there from the Friends of Carnwath. So,
See, I think that the tie-in between the Boy Scouts and Friends of Carnwath and Greenway is just a natural fit.
yeah,
Certainly.
And everybody wins.
yep. And again, we just have to, make this work for all parties here and make it work in terms of usage of the park and things like that, but
I
definitely.
think we can make it happen.
So
Either way, this is something that, again, we can piggyback on all the projects that we're working on there.
In a perfect world, Stan, when would the first camp out be? What month would it be in?
We generally camp outside from September, October, and then we go out again in March, April, May, sometimes June.
Okay, so anytime then. Okay.
Probably not this year, we're probably talking about
Fall.
next year, September,
Okay.
October, yes.
All right, yeah, so I think it's doable. We can talk offline and put together a plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Good seeing
Thank
you.
you very much.
Thanks, Dan. Good luck on softball.
I'll tell you what, you look good for retired, I'll tell you.
Thank you.
Can't say so much before, but now.
Thank you.
You helped him retire, Bill.
Yeah, I paid for your retirement.
There we go. All right. Moving along to our consent agenda, Resolution 2025-81, resolution accepting donation to Parks and Recreation Department, St. Patrick's Day luncheon. Resolution 2025-82, resolution accepting donation to Parks and Recreation Department, Senior Center Division. Resolution 2025-86, correspondence log. Do I have a
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Just want to make one point.
Sure.
So the Pines of Poughkeepsie paid for the
Senior Center
Yes,
Division.
the senior
Yes,
center.
Worked with them last year to secure that sponsorship, and they've added more to it this year.
So I just want to say that, some may know, some may not, that as my father faced some medical challenges, I found myself back at the Pines. My mother previously was there, and the staff there is absolutely wonderful and does a great job, and it's really means a lot to see that they're going out of their way to support an event here in the town.
It was
Great
good to see your dad out again.
Yeah, he's finally out. I feel like when I talk about this, I feel like he got out of jail or something. He's finally out. No, he unfortunately had to be in rehabilitation for a little while as he regains his strength from a respiratory issue that goes back to October. So now finally back home this past week, and certainly we have around the clock assistance there with family members, but the Pines does an incredible job, great staff, and I guarantee you they're not thanked enough, so thank you to the Pines.
Yes, thank you. We had a motion by Councilman Casella, second by Councilman Phillips. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Resolution 2025-80, resolution adopting local law number 1 of the year 2025 entitled Amendment to Chapter 50 Records and Chapter 68. Do I have a motion?
Move.
Moved by Councilman Phillips,
I'll second.
second by Councilman Casella.
Just on the question, so there's a reference here for the attorney, there's a reference to the Arts and Cultural Affairs Law.
Yeah,
What is that?
So, the Arts and Cultural Affairs Law is the New York State law that governs record keeping.
Okay, that's
And,
interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting, because it's not where you would think to look for government record keeping, but that's where that is. And the effect of what we're doing tonight, if you move to adopt, is to replace the former schedule for record keeping, which was the MU1 schedule, with the current schedule, which is LGS1.
Okay.
So this law really just keeps you guys up to date, and it's also a critical component for a grant that is hopefully the town will get to assist in facilitating digitizing the records in the building department.
So this is the $75K the supervisor talked about before for the grant. So apparently, we didn't meet the threshold last time. We had to make some changes in order to apply for the $75,000 grant, and that's what this is.
Yeah,
Correct.
exactly.
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
Nope.
Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None, thank you very much. The local law is passed, our first local law of the year. Let's hope we continue. Resolution 2025-83, resolution introducing local law in 2025 for the purpose of regulating smoke and vape sales. Do I have a motion for discussion?
Move.
I'll second it.
Moved by Councilman Phillips, second by Councilman Casella. On the discussion, this was a portion of a local law that was considered last year. I believe everyone on the dais overwhelmingly agreed to this legislation, which would essentially limit the number of smoke and vape shops coming into the town. Right now, they are noted as general retail rather than specifically smoke and vape shops. Like most other uses in the town code are noted as their specific use. We do have a greater concern as well that some of these establishments that are starting to pop up may be engaging in sales other than smoke and vape, and we're working with the appropriate authorities on that. Essentially, what we're looking to do is limit any potential criminal or illicit activity in the town, preserve the quality of life, especially in areas that our children are normally accustomed to. And again, there are certain situations right now in this town, actually in Councilman Casella's ward, where there are 3 smoke and vape shops right on top of each other right now. Again, we're trying to offer some sort of diversification when it comes to our business stock. So this is a multi-pronged approach. It was a piece of legislation I was looking to bring forward once again and see if there's any thoughts from my colleagues.
So is the Director of Strategic Planning taking a look at this at all? I mean,
She
Barbara?
looked at it last year.
Okay.
She opined on her comments last year, as well as county
So
planning.
my only question is, I mean, you're only talking about smoke and vape shops shall constitute no more than 10% of the total store. What happens if it's a complete smoke and vape shop? How does that work?
So the first one that comes after is not going to be a dedicated smoke and vape
Okay.
shop. That's really what's
Yes.
going to happen.
Okay. So in my case, in the 4th Ward, 1 leaves, you still have 2 left, and then once eventually you'll get down to 1.
Yes.
Okay. Got it.
And this was initially a section of code that was modeled off of the city of Albany and their legislation, and it went through the full review last year. It was part of that greater local law that we've been piecemealing out from. So it did go through its review from planning, legal, and in-house.
Okay.
So there is case law here in the town of Wappinger with Giggles, which was an effort for the town to prevent that type of store to operate, which ended up in a lawsuit that we lost. So my question would be, is there a discriminatory factor with this type of store?
So, before the meeting, I had taken a look at an organization that tallies all of the regulations that have been adopted by municipalities to regulate smoke and vape shops. There's 5 or 6 different factors that are looked at: distance, percentage of the store, hours of operation, obtaining a local permit or license to operate. So we're within the parameters. We only have really 2 of the 5 or 6 that have been enacted, and so certainly, if we can't predict who's going to sue. So there could always be litigation, but you guys are not, you're not enacting a law in an area that's never been regulated before. If you guys went out of those, let's say, 5 or 6 criteria and delved off into some new criteria, then certainly I think it could be ripe for litigation. I think the important things are, when you're looking at distances, is the net effect of the distance. Is 3,500 feet mean that, you can't have it? Because in that case, then you're doing something altogether. You're banning it. You're not just, you're not regulating the distance. You're making it impossible. But you have enough geographic area on Route 9 where other places can exist. And as long as you meet that criteria, then you're within those, let's say, 60 to 70 towns that they had taken inventory, and that's not a current inventory. It's like, it ended in like 23. So, with the boom in vape, there's like self-storage and vape shops. There's like a correlation between, that's all you see.
Yeah.
So I feel pretty confident that, the fact that the distances work, then you're going to be okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I see some of the same language here within this proposed legislation that we've been sued for with gas stations, too.
Exactly.
It happens.
I know.
In litigation to,
Right, well,
council's
we've
point,
sued
it
and
happens.
lost. So, I
Yeah.
mean, the point is, 3,500 feet, and trust me, I'm not a fan of these places, and I'll tell you right now, there is one place that's within the boundaries of the Village of Wappingers Falls that's selling things that are specifically unregulated and are harmful.
Yes.
Right.
And we have certain instances right now in this town where certain businesses are engaging in the exact same thing. So that's why when we have evaluated this, we're not outside the parameters of the law. We're not outside any sort of scope of legislation here. We're not even hitting all 5 points of criteria that other municipalities have hit. This is, again, essentially just looking to regulate something that we currently regulate in the town on other things. So,
I mean, the question becomes, again, some of the verbiage here, I mean, it's exactly similar to other types of businesses that we've had issues with respect to locations next to places of worship, religious institutions, schools, right? We have been in
but that-
litigation over all this.
So I know you're citing the gas station law, but there are other
Right.
sections of code that currently still exist in the town code that we haven't been challenged on, and it's almost verbatim to what you're reading here. So it's
Right.
not just gas stations, there are other sections of code that exist, and we have one on.
And don't get me wrong, I could give you another business that we should regulate also, which we probably don't have authority over, but I'll tell you that in a second. You know, what happens when another business decides they're going to have a corner of the store devoted to this? How does that work?
Well, if they are if they qualify as a smoke and vape shop, then they're going to have to comply with the
Right.
regulation.
What if they don't? What if they are another type of business that sells all this stuff in the corner of the store?
Well, so,
Because that happens too.
yeah,
You mean like a deli or a gas station could sell stuff like that?
Deli, gas station,
Yep.
I don't even know what, I'm not sure that the one that's located just north of Viscount is considered a vape shop, but they sell a lot of stuff in that place for vape.
Isn't it
Not-
No,
percentage
it
of
is
store?
considered a smoke and vape shop.
Is that a smoke and
Yes.
vape shop?
Yes,
So-
it is.
they would qualify as a smoke and vape shop.
Yeah.
Once-
Yeah, because what you're alluding to is, again, like a gas station or a deli, actually not even really a deli anymore, it would be more so a gas station convenience store, which would go through its own regulatory process. And
Yeah, let's just say it that way. That's a safer way. A convenience store, right? What if a convenience store decides that we're going to devote 25% to smoke and vape now? How does that work? Do they have the ability to do that?
Well, here's,
I don't think they
the
can.
limit
It's a
says 10%.
10%.
Yeah, no, they don't.
So it's a 10% of the store.
So if you're over 10%, you're then considered a vape shop.
Says who?
It's
I don't know if we have the authority to say that, though.
on page
do,
14.
right.
Yeah, you do.
We do.
So if you're over 10%, if over 10% of your store now, you're selling smoke and vape, then under this, you're considered a smoke and vape shop?
Right.
Okay.
You would have to get a special permit and then comply with the criteria.
Okay. Oh, listen, I support limiting these. I think this town took a good position with respect to recreational marijuana use, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Our position was that, you know, we're not against medicinal marijuana use, right? However, we felt that it would be in our best interest to limit that. Look what happened. That blew up in the village. I mean,
Well, yeah, so the Village of Wappingers Falls only permits on one section of the Route 9 corridor, and I reviewed their code, and it appears that should be the only one, because they have distances factored in, similar to this legislation.
Right, but-
So that one should be the only
it
one.
should be, but
But the one that you're referring to, Councilman, is exactly why we have this
I know.
legislation here.
But they're also selling, so that's a smoke and vape shop that sells CBD products.
Exactly, but that's exactly
Right.
why we're looking to limit
Right. No, I
this.
get it. I'm just,
And actually, I forwarded a piece of this legislation on to the village that they should seriously consider as
the problem
well.
is, once they're there, then you got to wait until they're out.
Exactly.
Well, you got to play a long game. We have to start somewhere.
No, listen, I support this. I'm trying to be contrarian here a little bit, just to make sure that we're covering.
There's a,
Yes.
look, there's a double-edged sword effect when you start regulating businesses, okay? Particularly gas stations, because they're regulated more often than others, just.
You don't have to tell me that.
Yeah. But, you know, for instance, if you make a use a non-conforming use, then the reality is that it's probably going to stay there forever because it can't move, it can't expand, you know, essentially locked
Right.
it in, right? But oftentimes that's the trade-off for the future limitation on the use.
Yeah.
But,
And I'm not a fan of typically regulating any free business or any local business. Problem with these types of businesses that are coming in, they're not necessarily being fully forthcoming, and we're engaging in some sort of illicit activity. And again, we've seen it right here in this town with massage parlors.
Okay, that was where I was going to go next. because,
Exactly. And we have cracked down on all of them now.
Right, but we're not, I don't know that even we have the authority to even do anything with that, and not to go down a rabbit hole here, but if we're going to enforce anything, okay, we need to be enforcing those massage parlors slash spas, whatever they are. Not only was the FBI on the ground in the town of Wabasha arresting people for reportedly human trafficking out of one of them, there are 6 other ones that have newspaper over their windows. These need to be shut down. What is going on here? I don't know that we even have the authority to do anything about these things, but let's just look at it this way. If there's newspaper on the windows, okay, if the windows are obstructed, I'm not sure how that's not a code violation, number one. And number two, let's not be naive to the fact that there's probably something illegal going on, and I'm not talking about the obvious, I'm talking about human trafficking going on. That's what I'm talking about.
And that's one thing that we set out last year to crack down on. Out of a number of them, we shut down 4 of them last year, and working with our fire inspector and actually engaging with our partners in New York State Police and the Dutchess County Sheriff's Office. So even where the town might not have the full authority, we are working with our partners in law enforcement to shut these different entities down. The problem with the one that recently had an FBI sting occur at was that they shut down and then reopened again under a different identity.
So what I would say is, back to this legislation, I will support this, but I would ask the attorney if we can look at, is there a way that we can also legislate the existence of these nefarious spas and massage parlors that are popping up just as much, if not more, than these types of locations?
Right now, our town code does require a New York State license, not a cosmetology license, but a massage therapist license. But if you could take a crack at it, counsel, and see if we need to
I could tell you
tighten
a
it
few
up.
things, just from talking with our code enforcement officers, that we're exerting as much authority as possible.
Yes.
I get that. On the back end, I get it. We only have so many, you can't just walk into a place. I get that, right? And there's general business law. My understanding is that there's jurisdictional issues with respect to who can enforce that. I get that. How about on the front end, before they even get here, right? And a proactive way like this, is there a way to specifically govern those types of establishments too? If we're going to look at it, governing or legislating smoke and vape shops, can we also explore what abilities we have with these quote-unquote massage parlors?
So it's very difficult, because the use is something that is a permitted use for people that have the appropriate licenses. So when those businesses make application and they come in with the licenses, and then they convert to illegal operations, that is in fact the problem.
Yes.
So what, in effect, really what, I've had this discussion. I mean, it is a passion project for our code enforcement officers in dealing with this, because of the human trafficking component of it. So they are very sensitive to it. But you're down to just limiting when they could be open. So for instance, if the traditional, you guys don't have, let's say, a name brand spa here, but
Well, I hear what you're saying, though.
what's the place?
Hand and Stone.
Right.
Hand and Stone.
Or Mirbeau.
Mirbeau, right? So you have a first
legitimate
class.
operation versus
Right. You have a first-class operation, but anybody who has achieved the degree or certification necessary to be a licensed massage therapist, in effect, the only way what you have left is you can't be open past 6:30 p.m. and then all the ones open after 6:30 are not legit.
Well, exactly. And we were cracking down on that, especially last year, and we had a number of them held up, and some of them just closed up. because they were providing cosmetology licenses.
Right.
You know, for doing hair and makeup and things like that.
Yeah.
And so we were able to, again, uphold our code.
Right. But I get the point. We all get the
Yes.
point.
It's crazy.
It's whack-a-mole.
If they're using the
It
back
is
door
whack-a-mole.
more than the front door, that's usually an indication that there's a problem. That's what was happening. I
Yes.
sat at the credit union one day and was...
Yeah, I know
Do
exactly.
you want to
what
admit
you're
to
talking
this
about.
now?
I sat at the credit union, and I was like, let me sit here and see what's going on here. And, you know, vans are pulling up, and, like, you know, people are, I'm like, what is that? Like, this is not right.
No.
Now, the irony is the vape and smoke shops are, fluorescent, bright.
Right, yeah.
you
There's
know,
nothing-
The total opposite.
There's no newspaper on those windows.
No.
You can see them from space.
And some of, well, that's the thing too, with the hours of operation. We have one in this town, in Councilman Casella's ward, that's open until 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't even know when they close.
Well, look, you can, you know, these are the quality of life type situations that, you know, if you don't want to attract a crowd late at night, where oftentimes you might, I mean, you know, I know I didn't grow up here in town, but I've been, you know, visiting my grandmother's lived here forever. I mean, we could all probably recall the hangout at Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah.
You know, because that's the only show left in town to hang out in after, you know, 9 o'clock at night. Where else do you
Right.
go with your friends? You take your car and you go hang out at Dunkin'. So,
Yeah,
but look, Bill,
good point.
we can tighten up vape and smoke shop. The massage parlor situation is
Yeah.
a little bit more difficult, but we can try to see what other municipalities have done.
The greater question is, at 3:59 a.m., if there's a line coming out of the vape shop, you got to wonder what they're selling in
Yeah,
there.
well, exactly. Exactly.
I appreciate the work that you
Thank you.
you all put into this, and thank you for answering my questions.
Thank you, Councilman. With that, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Motion passes. Resolution 2025-84, resolution introducing a local law for the purpose of amending Chapter 240 zoning to include short-term rentals. Do I have a motion for discussion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Moved by Councilman Phillips, second by Councilman Casella. This was something that Councilman Beal and I had collaborated on and spoken about, especially in lieu of a tragedy that occurred in this county up in the town of Clinton, in which a short-term rental was in operation and was found to not have operational smoke detectors and COs, in which members of a family passed away. Currently in the town of Wappinger, we have no legislation surrounding short-term rentals, which has been, for the most part, the mantra of this town board and my colleagues and I of not regulating something like this and allowing the free market to run its course. But since this is not something that is called out for in our town code, that raises a question of where it's even allowed in the town of Wappinger. So in looking at this, the Director of Strategic Planning and Municipal Codes had drafted this piece of legislation and forwarded it to us. And I wanted to open it up for discussion by members of the town board, see if there was any concerns, and just get the temperature on the legislation.
So my question, maybe both Bill and Mike LaGroy can answer. It calls for fire suppression? I mean, the houses have to be sprinkled?
And that is one section of code, when we spoke earlier today, Councilman, depending on what Councilman Beal feels about that, we can maybe amend to remove.
And my only question on it is, it seems like it would be a double-edged sword, right? So you require it for good reason. You know, hotels are required and all that. But I doubt many people will sprinkle their house and they would just circumvent this and not let us know they're doing it.
Agreed. And I don't want to necessarily, create a bunch of illegal ones now. We want to try to legalize
No,
them
so I'm
and
just-
do this the right way.
You know, you guys, Bill, you deal with this all the time. And Mike, what about from the legal point of view?
I mean, this is the great debate, right? So, in a perfect world, best practices would suggest that everyone have a sprinkled home, right? In fact, the New York State code at one point was leaning toward requiring all new construction to provide for sprinklers in residential dwellings. I don't think that ever passed. I think that the feasibility of that in rural areas, especially with the housing costs right now, it definitely would make it unreachable. With respect to this, I think we're looking at a template here that we need to just make some adjustments to. What I will say is, yes, we've talked about this in the past. I've been here for the evolution of the Airbnb. Barbara Birdie and I have attended several trainings at the Association of Towns. Some of you probably have too, right? Over the years on what towns should be doing with respect to Airbnbs. There had been a feeling initially that it was a hands-off type of market. You know, basically similar to ride sharing. It's a home sharing type thing. I get that. However, when it comes to safety, that I think is where we need to take a stand. And tragically, I was on the scene of that fire in the town of Clinton, where a mother and daughter from Cape Cod died in that house. Not without the fire department risking their lives to remove them, which they did. Unfortunately, it was too late. And in this particular case, there is obviously pending litigation. There's unsealed indictments now, manslaughter charges against the owners of the property. But you had a Airbnb that was advertised as newly remodeled and had certain safety standards in place to include smoke detectors, obviously. Airbnb has requirements within their parameters. If you're going to be listing on their site, you have to meet certain standards, and I believe smoke detectors is one of those standards. In this particular case, which will play out in court, you will hear indication from witnesses that there may have not been smoke detectors, or at least operating smoke detectors in that home. And you will hear that the subjects that lost their lives may have lost their lives because there was not enough time to react based on how fast that fire was moving. That's why this conversation started again, right? So it's not that we want to put any hardship on individuals who are using their home for this purpose. I think that as the local government, we do have a responsibility to public safety, right? And if individuals are going to be offering their home for the purposes of short-term rentals, I do think that we have a responsibility to ensure that, number one, we have an inventory of these locations within the town, and number two, there is some mechanism by which they are meeting certain safety standards. Because folks that are renting an Airbnb are, I think they have a right to assume that there's a level of safety, especially if you're going through Airbnb, right? And Airbnb is a legitimate short-term rental organization that may or may not indicate that, hey, listen, it meets our standards, therefore this is a legitimate short-term rental. So this is, in my opinion, a starting point for us. I think that there's more discussion to be had, but the public safety side of it is really my focus.
So I agree, the public safety, but I guess the question is, how do you monitor that somebody's in there for 30 days rental? Because right now, there's no mechanism, as you said today, to find out who's actually doing these B&Bs. You have to go out to the B&B website to try to find these things. So there could be hundreds out there we're not even aware of. Safety issues, sprinklers, smoke alarms. That's my concern. How do you monitor these things, and who's going to do it? Is it going to be our planning and zoning? So now you're going to add additional workload.
And our planning.
And I want to make sure people are safe. That's the bottom line here.
Of course.
We have to be safe.
And our code enforcement office has specifically, again, requested this legislation and offered the fact that they would be willing to go out and do these annual fire inspections as outlined in the legislation. I was speaking with Councilman Phillips earlier today. The city of Beacon, and speaking with also our chairman of the planning board, Bruce Flower, however their legislation is written, similar to this, but this Airbnb, VRBO, all of these different websites will not allow you to post your property without showing the permit from the locality. And I believe Town Clerk Paoloni has his short-term rental upstate, and he has to go through this process as well. So for us to regulate it, again, they can't post it anywhere until they supply the permit, because now Airbnb, VRBO will be put on notice that the town of Wappinger now has regulations. Currently, exactly to your point, there are no regulations.
Correct.
We took a laissez-faire approach, which I didn't disagree with, but now we have to circle back around and say, all right, we need to put in some sort of safety requirements and standards.
That's why I asked the question, because
Yes.
I believe if we require fire suppression, that's too expensive, and nobody's putting sprinklers in an existing home.
It will be a deterrent.
So then we lose the visibility on people who are going to do it anyway.
Right.
So again, I'm for it. I'm sure that whatever zoning class it goes in, it gets an annual fire inspection.
Yeah.
And that's as much safety for the renters as the rentor.
Yeah.
The other thing, looking at the
Just to
fines,
get caught up on code and you should do this, this, and this, and, you know.
Yeah.
the other thing, looking at fines and fees here, I think the fines and fees are way too low. I think you need to make it more painful. I think you need, because what you want people to do is, it's not so much about collecting your money, it's about making people be responsible. For $150, people look another way. I'd rather have something that's more substantial out there. Again, this way you have somebody who's legit, who's actually going to do the things that you need to do for safety.
Yeah.
And that's really what this is about. I mean, I don't have a problem with people renting out their property, but again, being able to monitor it, making sure you've got all the safety issues, taken care of. Again, we don't want another accident like
Amen.
happened in Marlinville, so.
So what I can do is I've compiled fines and fire suppression.
Yep.
Supervisor?
Yes, sir.
I encountered this, a similar, or a regulation of short-term rentals in another town, I forget where. But there was a discussion about, permanent fire suppression and what the cost was and the deterrence and some of that discussion involved limited suppression systems if I think they were already required in multi-story structures.
Yeah.
But one thing that did stick out, which I think is relevant, is requiring a fire alarm company monitoring of the smoke detection system. And that may be an alternative that's not nearly as expensive as suppression. But you're required to have an alarm contract with the central station. And that's an instance where, if your alarm system isn't working, there is a central monitoring station that would call 911. So that it's an alternative for discussion or, thought about ways to maintain safety and not have too big of a burden, but you do have some protection out there where you're not just relying on the homeowner.
Absolutely. And I was going to say, Council, if you could take these comments here and maybe take a stab at it, and that would be appreciated. This way we can continue the ball rolling here. I think this is a fruitful discussion up here.
Sure.
And again, we don't want to waste any time.
The other issue that we run into at the county level is, there's more Airbnbs than you would ever imagine that are existing in Dutchess County, and often there's emergency calls coming into 911 and they don't know where they are because they don't know the address. So I do see that there's something here that indicates that the address will be posted inside the space so that they know where they are.
Exactly.
Because that sometimes becomes a challenge.
Yeah, well, if you go from ride share to room share,
Yeah.
locating the room is a whole other, it's a real thing.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
You don't even know where you're at.
Right.
And this, again, not that I'm really interested in over-regulation. I just think that it's now to the point where it's becoming the Wild West almost, right? So we need to have some standards in place so that we can ensure that we have knowledge and situational awareness of these
Where they exist.
locations, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Correct. I mean, we've done this before. I could go on here right now and tell you, there's 20 right here, right in this area, right? But that's fine.
That's the 20 you found, that's not
I'm
the
not,
other 20 you didn't find.
I'm not looking at trying to jam anyone up right now, but I think moving forward, we should have a mechanism in place so that,
Agreed, so we don't know
safety.
where they're at, absolutely.
right, safety is paramount. Thank you.
Do these go on like a 1202 list? that type of thing?
Yes, yes.
1203?
It would, yeah, the 1203 list, so the fire inspector's annual inspection, that's outlined in this legislation.
Perfect.
Yep, it requires the annual inspection.
And like you said, Councilman Phillips, that's not necessarily a bad thing for that resident, because it's bringing a level of fire inspection into that
Sure.
space.
Yeah. And in regards to fees and fines, I agree with you. The fine should be hefty enough to make an impact. Personally, I'm not a big fan of having a big permit fee. I just want to get your consensus on that. I believe that the permit fee was lower. I was not a big fan of charging it a lot. And then same thing with the annual inspection fee, because I don't want it to be a
Right.
deterrent.
Right.
Absolutely. I think,
You're looking for offenders is what you're trying to do.
Exactly.
And
I
that's
think
what
his
you want to do.
point was to go after people who don't
Yes,
comply.
yes, so definitely agree with the fines and fees. The one thing, Mr. Legori, when you're drafting, if you could look at comparable fines, I think that we're good with the fees for the permits.
Again, the fees for these types of things should be to cover the amount that it costs to have it inspected.
Of
So,
Right.
a $250 fee, yearly renewal fee should cover the inspection.
That's
cost.
fine. I'm talking more about the other ones, first
On the
offense,
on the
second offense.
penalties, yeah, that's
Yeah,
something
definitely.
we can look at. Hopefully, there won't be any penalties.
Yes,
No, but we want to deter, that's what we want to do.
Of course.
absolutely. Okay. With that, I was going to say,
Why don't we table this
we
one?
can table this, and then we can come back with an updated version and keep the ball rolling from there.
I'll move to table it.
Moved by
I'll second
Councilman
it.
Beal, second by Councilman Casella. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Resolution 2025-85, resolution introducing a local law in 2025 for the purposes of amending the town code with regards to zoning definitions. Do I have a motion for discussion?
Move.
A second.
Moved by Councilman Phillips, second by Councilman Casella. This is piggybacking off of the smoke and vape shop law to add that section of code to the definitions. It's not currently outlined. It's something similar to what we did with the tattoo parlors.
So basically, it makes the law a little more clear so that we have, I understand.
Yes, we have to add the definition.
Yep.
So that was that section of code.
And that's specific to 240-50.
It's specific to that zoning code in regards to smoke and vape shops. Yes. The 240 section of code, not 240-50, which is conservation.
Yeah, sorry, 240-5 and 240-19.
I just want to make sure that wasn't on there, but yes.
Yeah, no,
Yes,
240-5.
Chapter 240 of our zoning code, correct.
Yep.
Okay.
Are we changing definitions here within this 240-5?
This is just for the smoke and vape shop, that is my understanding.
Because if we're making any changes to anything else on these types of documents, we should have strike-out areas of
Yeah,
any
nothing has been
changes.
changed.
So if there's
No, nothing has been deleted, no.
Right, but is there any change to these definitions?
No, not to my knowledge. My knowledge is this is only for smoke and vape shops.
So there's no change to the definition for buildable lot, buildable yield, clustering, constrained land?
Then probably, yes.
Okay, if there's any changes, we need a strikeout version. We can't be voting on this blind.
Official map. I'll take a run through. I don't believe so. I thought that was all taken care of.
No, but I agree with Bill. We should have the original version and the strikeout so we can see
Yeah.
the changes.
But no, I can tell you that I did not delete anything from here. The only thing that was added to this code was the smoke and vape shop.
Okay, so the buffer wetland, water body, or water course, that's not changing?
I can
So
double check.
basically what that does is it defines what the buffer means. So
Yeah.
I'd like to see if that was in there before, because I think what we did was we defined it a little more clearly, that's all.
What, the buffer?
Yeah.
When did we do that?
Well, I think it's changed now, and I think that's what this is. You're seeing it's more defined now than it was before, is my point. So again,
Okay.
I think if you take a look at the original version versus this one, just do a comparison, that's all.
Okay,
This, we're just opening up a public hearing, correct?
correct.
Yeah, so on April
So-
14th, we'll have a discussion with the residents, et cetera,
Yeah,
so
comment.
Do you want to move it along?
I don't, Councilman Bailey, you questioned it. Could we still open up the public meeting and take a look at the before and after.
And then we'll
between that?
we'll run through that.
Instead of waiting another 2 weeks and pushing it out a month?
Well, as long as we can make a copy of I want to see the changes. I don't want to see,
Yep.
So you want, all right, so any deletions, any red line version?
I want to see a version that has strikeouts, red lines, whatever change, we should be able to see what exactly we're changing here.
Okay. Okay. And then at least this way, to Councilman Phillips's point, you're moving it along.
I have no problem with it.
And then at any point in time, as we email out, if there are any changes or anything like that, which I am flipping through here, there most likely is, yeah.
I think there's
So-
got to be a 10-day window when they get it,
Yes,
to the changes that he registered.
Correct.
that's correct. So, yeah, we can do that.
Can we move it along then? And-
Yeah, if there's any changes, the attorney,
Right, so the way it works is that the final version of whatever law is adopted has to lay on your desk, either 7 days, depending on how it's delivered to you, 7 or 10 days, depending on the delivery.
Before the next meeting on the 14th.
Well, so the 14th would be your public hearing. So right now, you're introducing a local law. You're saying, hey, we're considering this, we're going to have a public hearing on
But
it.
if we have changes, right, which we may, because we want to see the red line version,
Right, there may be changes.
could be changes. Let's assume there are changes. I think there are, but
Okay.
You could also
If-
get changes based on public.
That's right.
input.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say to you
That's a fair
that-
point, yeah.
That's right. So there are instances where we feel confident enough that you could adopt the same night as a public hearing, like on the records.
Yes.
The record is, we were just swapping schedules from the old schedule to the new one. So, if, let's say, there were comments on the 14th that required revisions, those revisions would be made, and then my office would circulate the proposed final version. It'd have to lay on your desk no less than 7 days, and then at the following meeting, you'd be able to lawfully take action.
would be
Final
another
version.
public hearing. We don't want to
Yes.
have another duplication, 240-50.
That's correct. It would have to be another local.
So that's why I'm
Public hearing.
bringing this up.
Yeah.
We have to be very careful how we proceed with these types of legislative actions. We really need to be very specific with respect to what is being changed here, what it was previously, what we are entertaining it being, and I want to make sure that we're doing it that way. And I've said this before in previous years, I have reservations about these piecemeal changes within our code, where we're changing this and changing that and changing this and changing that. I know there's some cases that we have no options, like, for example, in this case, we're adding that section we just talked about with respect to vape shops, but any other changes that are taking place, I think we need to have full visibility on.
Of course, and I think to piggyback off of that, though, we had tried to do more of a comprehensive one at the beginning of last year with multiple code changes and things like that, and that was requested by the town board to then break them up and do smaller.
correct.
So that's what this was.
Right, no, I get that.
I just want to make sure that I'm following what you're saying here. So would you like more of a comprehensive code change? Because that's what I was trying to do here was, I know it kind of seems sporadic, but I was chopping them out as requested by the town board last year.
So this is, we're updating 240-5, 240-19, 240-20.
I think what he's just requesting is the code be here, what's new be in red, or
Yeah.
vice versa.
Okay, yeah, I can do that. So we'll do the red line version and we'll go through that. Again, this was just resurrecting from last year. I know that this law needed the definition. The law needed the definition for smoke and vape shops to even be considered.
And that local law 3 was untabled anyway last year.
Exactly,
Through.
exactly. So this was just piecing that portion of local law 3 out.
Exactly, and that's what we wanted. We wanted
Yes.
to
So
break
that-
everything out so you can take a look at it individually.
I
Yes.
think we
Rather
gotta
than
get you a
one.
color printer, Joe.
If you want, and conceptually, if you guys think it's easier, if you want to put the vape definition into the vape law
Yeah.
and consolidate that so you don't have to worry about the interaction between the two, because if they don't run simultaneous, then you may have an issue.
Yeah.
So we could put that in there. Just
Would
for
that delay the public hearing or no? We'll just send that along?
No,
Okay.
it wouldn't.
Okay.
Yeah, because we can, I think it might be easier to just move that one definition over.
Okay.
And then you bisected the two, you could move on the vape stuff, you know.
That's perfect then.
Okay.
Okay, we can do that, but in the meantime, we will move this along, and then we'll get all the information to the town board. Okay?
Very good.
Perfect. We had a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you very much. Motion passed. Resolution 2025-87, a resolution authorizing the purchase of engine and parts for Buildings and Grounds Department tractor. Do I have a motion for discussion?
I'll move it.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Casella, second by Councilman Phillips. I know that there was some discussion. This department does have enough money in its equipment line to fund this purchase. The idea was, again, to have this open dialogue and explain that, you know, as we are just about to come to the end of the first quarter, I did not want to take a significant one-time payment out and not have fund balance or town board approval ahead of time to cover that purchase. We did include in the resolution how much a new mower would cost. This is for Big Red. It is the mower that primarily mows Robinson Lane Baseball Complex, Castle Point, and Carnwath. It was down a number of times in 2023 before I took office, and then 2024, Lenny got it running, but he did advise that it needs some improvements. That is what's outlined here in this resolution. Essentially, I could have paid for this cash right now out of the budget. I wanted to bring this to the town board because it is a substantial expense, and at least get approval to pull from fund balance if need be at the end of the year. That was my logic.
So we have $66,000 in the budget for this today. We've spent $20,000. This is for $12,213. Rather than going to the B fund balance, I want to go to the equipment line, which is 710.200B. We do have money left over. I think later on, at some point in time, if we do need to move some money around from fund balance, we can do that. Certainly, we understand this is a one-time expense here. Hopefully, again, replacing the engine and not having to replace the full $137,000 machine itself. So my recommendation is to use the equipment line for now. Again, our accountant is taking a look at this stuff and keeping track of the money, and I'd rather take it out of that account. Again, last year we only had $35,000 in the budget, so we increased it to $66,000.
Of course, yes.
So again, trying to account for things like this, but that's my only change. But I certainly want to move forward with the $12,213.
And to your point, Councilman, I could have approved that purchase in-house.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because it's in the budget.
Yes.
I was trying to, of course, be transparent with the town board. It's up to you folks. I could have bought it today. I wanted to, again, bring you folks at least, up to speed with, how much is being spent out of that line, and again, avoid any end-of-year budget transfers or any confusion. So I was trying to be forthcoming before we purchased. But it's, again, thank you, Councilman Casella. Councilman Phillips, do you have any comments?
No, I am just, it's a 60-day turnaround,
Yes.
and they did this a month ago. I think they shouldn't have waited, because now we're
Now we're
going
behind.
2 months from today, and they're going to be meeting it next week or the week after that.
The department head, again, wanted this to come to the town board.
I get it. I just
didn't
think
want to dip too
he
much into
needs
his
to
budget.
maybe talk to Mr. Martino or somebody who does this day in, day out, because John wouldn't let us sit around for a month with something they need. That's my only concern. I think they should bolster their emergency fund a little bit for next year.
And we can definitely do that again. I was just seeing if the town board would be open to that purchase.
No, I'm all for it, but sometimes you got to do it yesterday rather than wait. That's my only point.
Of course. Okay.
So are you going to withdraw this, or?
Yeah, it could be withdrawn. Yeah, I'll buy it tomorrow.
Because you paid for that withdrawn.
Yep.
So let me just clarify this. So we're not needing to buy the tractor for $137,000?
That's
Correct. No. That was, the Building and Grounds Department mechanic wanted to provide the town board, again, part of our capital plan, what would probably be done in 10 years, what we'd be looking at. So by us purchasing this engine and fuel system, we're adding 10 years of life to this piece of equipment.
Saving
We wanted-
$125,000.
Exactly. We wanted to show this is what we're saving the town, because obviously we're capital planning. We want to show what again, this was just in transparency. I could have bought this.
Absolutely, because you have the money in the budget. We
Yeah.
appreciate that.
I wanted to bring it to the town board.
Yep.
So we would, again, rather opt for the budget transfer at the end of the year, if need be.
So the procurement policy allows them to spend $12,000 without town board approval?
Correct, because he received 3 quotes, that's the lowest bid, and then it just needs the town supervisor's counter.
Right, but doesn't he need 3 written quotes for that?
Yes,
And we have 3 written quotes?
yes.
Okay.
Okay, so I can withdraw this resolution if there's no objection. Okay. Thank you.
Or you could just approve it and say, we're going to use
But
Doc
we-
200.
we-
You don't
we-
have to.
We did that by virtue of adopting the budget, so it's okay. Thank you, Councilman. I withdraw the resolution. Okay, items for special consideration and new business. I believe, Councilman Beal, you have something in regards to Sergeant Mark C. Palmetier, 9/11 Memorial Park?
Yeah, so the contract for Palmetier, which is budgeted,
Yep.
is here, so I don't know that there's any action necessary.
Okay.
This is the same maintenance plan that we have each year for the property, and we budget for it, so it's basically handling the mulch and handling the plantings and handling all
Sure.
that kind of stuff. The mowing is still handled by Wappingers Falls Toyota, which we
Yep.
greatly appreciate, and the electricity on the property is still handled by Wappingers Falls Toyota, so.
You're going to need any additional of the stones down there again this year for the parking?
Yeah, that's in the budget, I think.
We were able to figure out a methodology to recycle the stones, so we haven't
Yeah.
been able to buy them.
Okay.
We have two or three layers on there now,
Yeah.
so the first time we did it, we had, midsummer, we had grass growing through it, but we got a couple layers on
Okay,
there. It's
good.
still permeable, but I think we're good. If we need to come back during the summer for something, we will, but I don't really think it's going to be a heavy lift. I think we've got a good base down there now.
Definitely.
Let me just say, we had a fire alarm activation here at Town Hall today. I just got a text from Jessica that the alarm's in trouble now. Was it in
Yes.
trouble since that alarm went off, or?
Yeah, but it apparently now is beeping. It's not a fire alarm, so we're not ignoring.
No, it's just in trouble mode.
Yes.
So somebody's going to need to contact the alarm company in the morning and make
Yeah.
sure that that's addressed, and hopefully at 2 a.m. I don't get woken up for the Town Hall.
Listen, I've been here at 2 o'clock in the morning and met Houstonville here for
Yeah.
faulty smoke detector heads. I
Let's not-
understand.
let's
I'll
not
be
do that
here.
tonight.
I'll be there if they need it. But no, yeah, everyone did evacuate. Huge shout out to our supervisor, Buildings and Grounds, and my secretary, Caitlin, for escorting everyone out of the building
Yeah,
in an efficient manner. And we worked with Houstonville. We found nothing, so it was chalked up to being dust. But we
Probably
went through the
dust in the
entire
detector or something, but
Yeah.
good fire drill today. Obviously, it was pouring rain out, so sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. If it's pouring rain out and you have senior citizens here that don't have a car to go to, you can only fit so many under the gazebo, right?
Yeah.
So I told Joey, I said, as long as there's no smoke and fire in there, you may want to just hold tight, they'll be there in a second, because sometimes it can create more of a risk bringing out some of those folks into a pouring rainstorm, right?
Yep, and shout out to our recreation department. They were able to manage that situation. We even had some seniors that decided to go for a little walk and, get their steps in today. So everything was okay.
So I'm sure that'll be addressed. Also, we've had a couple medical calls here at Town Hall over the last couple of weeks. And thank you to the staff and the supervisor for handling those very efficiently. It's been, when you see a lot of medical calls and fire alarms, that means there's a lot of people coming in and out, right? So
Yes.
there's a lot going on here at Town Hall, and everybody's responding appropriately to those types of situations. With respect to fire, shout out to the Houstonville Fire Department, who, my fire department, we celebrated our 112th dinner dance on Saturday night. Installation of officers, the supervisor was there, led us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilwoman Bettina was there also. as she represents a portion of the Houstonville Fire District. And again, the partnership between the town and the fire department certainly pays dividends throughout the year. And on behalf of the fire department, I thank all my colleagues here for your partnership. It really shows when you have young, motivated members coming through the ranks to take over leadership roles in the future. That's what the recipe here in this town, keeping this town volunteer, saves millions of dollars for the taxpayers of this town. And these are not fire departments that are sitting back and doing nothing. These are busy departments in this town. There could be between 1 and 9 calls a day going on between the fire and the EMS, and it's very busy. And really, I think we have a good recipe between Houstonville, New Hackensack, and Chelsea, and our partners in the Village of Wabengers Falls to keep qualified volunteer firefighters involved to save our residents even more here in this town. My thanks to Scouting USA and the Greater Hudson Valley Council for their recognition this past week as the Distinguished Citizen of the Year. Certainly honor to stand there at the beautiful Bellafield, Inn at Bellafield in Hyde Park and receive that and have my town colleagues in the audience. Thank you. I know Councilwoman Bettina couldn't make it, unfortunately, but she was missed. But looking out and seeing you all there, supporting a great organization, which certainly goes hand in hand with the presentation we had here tonight, right?
Yeah, that's why I thought it would all tie together.
And my thanks to fellow Eagle Scout Michael Gorey for supporting that event, and also to Larry Paggi, thank you for your support on that event as well. You know, in this town, we are very lucky to have solid Boy Scout, Girl Scout groups that are not only led by adult leaders, but more importantly, creating youth leaders, right? And I'm a huge advocate for leadership training, and we're doing that here in this town, and we're seeing those youth members becoming involved in the town, right? And I really believe firmly that it all goes together to create this fabric here in the town of Wappinger, so thank you for that. Graffiti, right? So we talked about graffiti earlier today because it's starting to pop up. We got a good handle on graffiti in the town of Wappinger, I think. Yes. Residents that are watching this, if you see graffiti, let us know. Mm-hmm. We have been very proactive with making sure graffiti is covered very quickly.
Yes.
Although, I know you talked to Rob Bayakowski already, but...
Yeah, no, so that location, one stage door, I reached out to Rob 2 weeks ago. Obviously, the weather has been very...
He'll get it.
You know, up and down. So he said that once the weather warms up a little bit more, they will paint the building. It is a metal building, so obviously they don't want it to just peel right off.
Yeah, they'll get that, but, you know, we're firm believers in the broken windows theory. This starts popping up and creeping up. If you don't catch it and handle it immediately, it's just going to spread, which happened in the village. I think they finally got a handle on that.
They
now,
finally
right?
did after a month. But I had reached out to our contacts, the property management companies up and down Route 9, and a few property owners on West Main Street, my personal contacts, and they removed the graffiti within 2 hours of me calling, which was nice. But in the town of Wappinger, you're right, we are on top of it. The highway superintendent joined me at the entrance to the Chelsea Hamlet at 90 and Chelsea Road. Someone had hit the former St. Mark's church sign. I went out to Home Depot, bought some goop gone, and took care of that. And then I worked with another resident to cover up some of those Central Hudson utility boxes.
Yeah.
So someone was running around tagging the little utility boxes on the corner of the street poles. So we went out, got some black paint, covered them up, and they actually look a little nicer. So we hit a number of those along the Route 9 corridor, 90, and All Angels Hill Road. So we try to stay on top of that.
And you said it. Some of these graffiti works are actually tags, right? They're actually or could be, or allegedly may be, tags for certain types of groups. So we don't want those to be on display, and I appreciate everybody working to make sure that doesn't occur. And then that brings me to spring cleanup, right? And I know that you're probably planning on some sort of spring cleanup activities,
Yes.
although, it may say
Earth Day.
40 degrees or 50 degrees on the thermometer, but the Arctic winds that are
Yes.
affecting us here, it doesn't feel like spring too much out there, but before we know it, certainly we will have some sort of an effort, I'm sure, to get out there and clean up the roads. I will say my pet peeve area really looks bad, and I think it's winds, right? Myers Corners Road, I think it's the
Yes.
wind. Everything comes out of that plaza into the woods right there by the Chase Bank. And you guys did a great job last year on that. But for whatever reason, it just, everything ends up over there. And I'll be happy to get out there and give you a hand.
Thank you.
Cleaning that up. Because I think it's just the wind. It blows it all over there.
And we're dealing with a site plan violation with Wappinger Plaza. There used to be a row of trees and bushes, actually along Myers Corners Road, that used to catch a
Kinda
lot of that
stop all that,
garbage.
yeah.
And you can see the stumps are still there.
Okay.
So we're working, trying to get the property management company to replant some of those shrubs and trees, hopefully catch some of it. Because, yes, you're right. And to piggyback off of that, if you don't mind.
Sure.
We are having we're actually having two cleanups in the town. One in your ward, the Houstonville Wheeler Hill Association is doing their cleanup on April 12th. And then the town of Wappinger, we are holding ours on April 26th. So we're having two cleanups for everyone to come out and beautify our town.
The other thing with respect to Wappinger Plaza, we all know tragically why it's no left turn, right? We get that, and certainly our thoughts still remain with that family. We really need a better way to create a blockade.
People still make that left turn.
Yeah, I mean, and I get it. I don't know, Mike, I don't even know legally what we can do. So there was a tragic accident there where an individual in a motor vehicle pulled out of the plaza making a left, right? And a motorcycle came in contact with that vehicle, and tragically someone lost their life. So the idea has been no left turn out of the plaza. However, I don't know that there's a legal mechanism that prohibits that left turn.
Yeah, so when I was in the county legislature, we had the county upgrade the signs. There was no left turn signs at the intersection there. They upgraded the signs because it used to be no left turn majority days except for Sundays.
Yeah.
So we got rid of the exceptions, and now it's permanent no left turn. The county has taken the stance of, well, that's private property. We can't,
Yeah.
do anything about it. The state police have actually gone and just erected this barricade there.
Yeah, they put basically barrels. Initially, it was barrels in the turn lane. Then they put some sort of there was a sawhorse there for a while that said no left turn. Then there's cinder blocks, but it's really just a temporary thing. And I really think what needs to happen is maybe we can have a conversation with the owners of the plaza and say, hey, listen, you might have some violations on your site, right? We'll forego those violations as long as you meet the standards, and also perhaps create some curbing here to prevent people from making a left, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a conversation we should have offline, because I understand the intent, why that's sitting there, but people go around it.
Yes.
And I could also probably make a good argument that it's actually less safe with people driving around the barricade making the left than it was, right, before the barricade was there. So,
Well, Bill,
Well,
it's
that's
much
almost-
like people making a left turn into Chase.
Yeah, same
Yes.
thing.
There
It's the same thing.
there is a curb there,
right.
so they literally have to go up over the curb.
That's
Then-
because, and I will tell you this, that these corner entities, how am I, if I'm coming out Myers Corners Road and I got to go to the ATM, how do I go to the ATM?
You can't.
I got to go make a left, go down to BJ's, make a U-turn, and come back in, and then how do I get back to Route 9?
Right.
Got to take a right, and go
You
back
gotta
at the
make
credit
a
union.
right, and then you gotta make a U-turn around the barricade that they put up and come back out, so,
Right.
right? So is it safer to prevent people from making the left, or is it safer to allow people to make the left, right? So, that's just one of those one of those things where people are just going to disregard it because it makes no sense.
Well, it takes a lot more time. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So, and I'm not advocating that you should do that, okay? 'Cause somebody will send me an email. But the point is, you know what I'm talking about. If you're watching this, you know what I'm talking about. So, offline, let's have a conversation about, okay, what are the options with that plaza? Because a lot of people that want to go back to Myers Corners, okay, so let's think about this. So if I live on Blackthorn, right, and I just went to Hannaford, really the only way you can do it is go back by the credit union and come out of Marshall Road.
Well, yeah, that's what I do currently.
That's what I do.
And there is a legal easement between there that you can cut through and get to
So
Marshall Road.
maybe some signage that says, eastbound Myers go this way or something.
Could be.
This is a
Because
conversation we
you've
should
got the
have.
light there, so you can take the left at the light.
What I had
Yeah.
hoped for, I felt that we had a few missed opportunities as a government a few years back when Popeyes opened in 2023. You had the entire plaza's site plan open at that time.
Yeah.
And that was a missed opportunity for the town to come in and say, hey, you need to regulate this intersection a
Yeah,
little better.
maybe it was, yeah. I mean, we got to get rid of Sonic. I mean, that's got to go.
Well, exactly, and at some point,
That's been closed more than it was open now.
Exactly. And we have a great relationship with many property owners in this town.
Yeah.
I have to say that before Big Lots and Party City closed.
Right, yeah.
We were at 90% capacity on our Route 9 corridor.
Sure.
Which is almost unprecedented.
Right.
We have been working with business owners and landlords to attract innovative development. Now, we have Boot Barn.
Yeah.
The Village Wappingers Falls, East Main Street, is at 100% capacity now. So we've been working collaboratively with these property owners. I'm hoping Wappinger Plaza gets on board with that. It would be great if they updated their facade and stayed within their site plan, but we're going to continue to move along with that.
Yeah, just those types of things. I mean, of course, when it starts warming up outside, we start noticing these things more, right?
Sure.
And, happy spring, everyone, even though it feels like winter.
Yes.
So I got a couple of comments. I don't know if you wanted to go next before I...
I wanted to congratulate Councilman Beal on his Man of the Year last week.
It was not Man of the Year. Distinguished citizen.
Distinguished
Oh,
citizen.
Man of the Year. He had a nice bust. It was a truly wonderful event.
Thank you.
They did a really good job, and seeing you there with the Williams Lumber family and
Sure.
the electric company was a very good thing, and congratulations.
I appreciate you being here. Thank you.
So again, congratulations to Bill for Distinguished Citizen of the Year Award. They raised about $50,000 that night, which was
Yeah.
phenomenal in itself. Just a couple of quick things for our buildings and ground. Just a shout out to those guys. They did an outstanding job over at Robinson Lane this past week. They replaced the roof on SL1. They fixed the plumbing inside the concession stand. So apparently somebody used the toilet and they weren't supposed to, and it kind of blew up. So they fixed that. They fixed the electric on F3, which is great. So we thought we were going to have to spend a lot of money. We spent less than $700 to fix that, so that light's working. We're planning on having the fields R2, R3, and Holt sprayed for grubs. We're also looking to do soccer field over at Airport Drive and also over at Regency Drive, looking to get those sprayed as well. We're in the process of trying to get some quotes because we have to reseed some of the fields over Robinson Lane. So we got our first quote in, but we needed a couple more. Again, what happened was the grubs tore up the infield. So again, we have to redo it. But first we have Waverly actually going out there to do the spraying. A couple more things. April 5th is the Joe Ennisser 5K run. So we want to make sure we attend that. That kicks off at, I guess, 9 o'clock. Try to get there before that. We also have the Easter egg hunt same day over at Robinson Lane. And then April 12th is opening day for Little League. So again, three important dates that are coming up very soon. One last thing for Larry. So Larry, we had what they call a workshop session on March 13th for residents that are in the Midpoint and also Wildwood Sewer. Pretty good meeting. We found out about some of the sump pumps. I have another name for you, by the way, so I'll give that to you off of Quarry Drive. Again, we want to get that second letter out, though, to let people know where we stand. I think that's important because I think you have a June or July deadline that you have to meet. So again, the important thing is we make sure that people understand if you have the sump pump, it's being tied into the sewer line, let us know, no penalty here, and we'll fix it. But I did find another person who has that, so I will relay that to you. So again, important things. I think we had a really good meeting. It was the supervisor, Chris, and myself, as well as Larry and Mike Tremper. A very, very good meeting to find out and explain to the residents what some of the issues are as far as the flow, et cetera, and what the capacity is for the sewer plants, and both of those are over the capacity, so those two plants. So again, we need to make sure we correct it. If we're able to do it, it's going to save the residents a ton of money. One midpoint as an example, the initial project was a $10 million project. We think it's down to about $1 million. And Wildwood was about a $6 million project. We think we get that close to $1 million. So again, if we can do the things that Larry and Mike Tremper have requested, that's going to be a significant savings for the residents. So, thank you.
And to clarify on your point there, Councilman, this was a town hall forum that my office had collaborated with Larry Paggi, our town engineer, Mike Tremper from KMO Pollution Control, and the councilman, to meet directly with the homeowners of Midpoint Park or Royal Ridge neighborhood and Wildwood as well. We have obviously been speaking about at length throughout this administration the sewer plants in both of those neighborhoods, and bringing them up to what I'm calling is essentially chalked up to unfunded mandates from the state of New York. The analogy that I gave during that meeting was if you had a 65 Mustang, runs well, you brought it into the shop to be inspected, they basically tell you, oh, can't pass it because you need to bring it up to 2025 emission standards. These plants are running very well, actually at peak efficiency. Essentially, we are dealing with lowered limits from the state of New York that we need to bring these plants into compliance with. As was noted, there were costs that were upwards of $75 million to decommission the plants and run it out to East Fishkill, and so on and so forth. So collaboratively, we went up to New York State DEC's offices and pitched our ideas to essentially make smaller capital improvements to improve the efficiencies there. They called our ideas very innovative, and we had these two roundtable discussions respectively with both neighborhoods. They were well attended, well, accepted as well by everyone in attendance. And to the councilman's point, we were dealing with I&I issues, something that we've been talking about for quite some time, which is inflow and infiltration. And a contributing component to this I&I is sub pumps, we found. And if we were able to even decommission, take offline 10 sub pumps tied into our town sewer system and tie them into the town's storm drain, we could see a significant reduction in the I&I and essentially bring our plant into compliance and save the taxpayers money. So we offered a penalty-free, fine-free solution to allow these homeowners to tie into the storm drain, which again, we have been getting forms coming in left and right from via mail and from residents, which we greatly appreciate that partnership. To piggyback off of much of what was said, our parks continue to be revitalized, and piggybacking off of what we set forward a year ago. Right now, it's very exciting. Fleetwood Park is going to be having a brand-new park. Move it out of the sewage treatment plant where it is currently into a new section in the neighborhood. It's going to have a beautiful new playground there. Castle Point Park as well is receiving a new playground and expanded pavilion. Again, thanks to the town board. Highway and Buildings and Grounds have been working collaboratively on these projects. Schlothouse Park, the stage is currently well underway of being constructed. They just poured the concrete foundation there. Inside the house, they are working on gutting that. That's paid for with a grant that we received from Dutchess County government. That is to make that one big open room and programming space. At Carnwath Farms, we are renovating the chapel, again, thanks to funds approved by the town board, to be an event venue that truly is going to be a beautiful space when it's done. It's already night and day, right,
Yes,
Councilman? When I
looked
took you
amazing.
out there, it's night and day, and that will be a beautiful, beautiful space for the town. I've been working collaboratively with the highway superintendent on road paving. There will be roads in every ward, a substantial amount. We're looking at 7 miles of road to pave. And we're working right now with our bond council on drafting a resolution and the bond packet to go out for bonding for this round of paving and reconstruction. We do have a significant amount coming in from the state of New York that is funded either through CHIPS or PAVE New York, but we did run out of the bond that was adopted 2 years ago, so we're just going to re-up that bond. And we'll present that to the town board when we have those
So
numbers.
the question is, we'll have to take a look at the rates, because based on the rates, you may do a 1 year or a 2 year, because rates are starting to come down now. So,
Exactly.
again, we just want to make sure we're financing and not, being too high of a rate.
Absolutely. And that's part of what we're doing right
Yep.
now, is we don't want to get the raw end of the deal.
Right,
So
exactly.
we're trying to do that. And again, a lot of these projects are financed due to, again, responsible financial stewardship of the town. If you noticed, your tax bill did go down in your town taxes this year. And again, that was based on adopting this budget, which is so realistic and allows us to cut wasteful spending, but also prioritize projects such as this. So I would like to thank Leanne Freno and her deputy Maura for an outstanding tax collection this year. So as we have concluded our tax collection, I'm sure everyone had noticed, or hopefully noticed, that the tax rate for the town tax portion did go down. So again, that is thanks to the collaboration of our team here in Town Hall.
The bottom line is the town of Wappinger has the lowest taxes per capita in Dutchess County, period. That's not by chance. That is because this administration and previous administrations have laid this foundation for this fiscal responsibility that exists here in this town. I'll put this town against any town of this size in Dutchess County.
Thank you, Councilman. And that is what I wanted to conclude with. We do have a need to go into executive session for the purposes of discussing active litigation and potential contractual negotiations, two separate topics, but both requiring attention of the town board. So with that, I'd like to make a motion to enter into executive
I'll
session.
move it.
Second.
Moved by Supervisor Cavazzini, second by Councilman Casella. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry, I'm signing these.
Oh, thank you for doing that. Folks, we will not be returning in a public session. Thank you very much.